Looks like everybody. Well, you know what, so, do you have an outline? I know it looks long, but it's not really gonna take as long as it looks. We wanna hear a little bit about your groups. Can we do that? Who wants to start? Wanna tell us a kind of, give us a kind of an overall picture of your group. I mean, they're fun, they're funny, they're difficult, they're late, they're all over it. I mean, just kind of global information. They want to eat every time they come. I mean, you know, describe your group if you could.
How long you've been doing it and all of that.
Yeah, and a little bit about you and that group. It's brand new.
Everybody is going to share, so.
I can start.
Okay.
I have a men's only group that meets in this room on Tuesday nights, and it is changing crazy. It's getting bigger and bigger every week. There's not another guys group, so that's kind of where they're going. And
How many?
I have about 10 to 12 to 15 guys that come every week to this. Steve's part of it, and just being able to be. It's been great, and what I've been doing now is allowing these guys to basically lead, not facilitate the time that they have when we're together. So it takes it off of me, of leading every week. I did it for the summer. We've been doing this for almost a year, 2 years, or something like that, and I'm getting burnout of doing it every week. So for them, so I'm asking the guys to step up, and they all signed up. It's done till February. I don't have to do it, and they all signed up, and we've done 3 so far with them leading, and it's been amazing. Guy shows up with PowerPoint, does a PowerPoint presentation on the board, and just gets creative in doing it. It's not just me every time. So it's been a really great way of having the guys be able to have ownership in the group. So that's kind of where we're going.
Do you or people in your group meet outside the group?
They do. We encourage them. That was the challenge for our last week. Is we were all trying to top each other. We went and met at a cabin, not here. We tried it once a week, month, go somewhere different than here, and we went to a cabin. And the guy challenged us to take a picture. He got us in smaller groups, and those smaller groups met together. And their challenge for the next 2 weeks is to hang out one time and take a picture, and he's going to then present it to the group after Thanksgiving of us doing something, and we're all, of course, guys, and we want to top each other. One of us is going to the a basketball game, one of us is going to the Niner game, and it's like we're kind of like just trying to like making it all work out. It's been fun.
Got one more question. I don't want to spend all day here on this group, but
Sorry.
how? No, that's okay. Because that's exactly what we want to hear and have everybody hear. How would you say that you guys take care of each other in that group, or you specifically take care of the men when stuff comes up, or
We'll allow some time at the end of the time to the evening. We try to get done 8:30 somewhere in there, and we spend the last half hour praying for each other. And I can't get the guys sometimes to stop, and they're sharing each other, and we're able to. I think my favorite part is when let's say there's a guy in my group that's having a rough marriage. Everybody just put their hands on and pray for that guy, and so they're meeting some of those needs, and they have a resource of emailing each other, and that's what we do. That's what we do. I send out a weekly email, and it just people start sending people other stuff. It's pretty neat, and so that's how they kind of communicate with each other.
Ryan, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Ryan, what would you say the average ages of your group?
That's the great part about a group. I've got the 20s and I've got the 60-year-olds.
Yeah, because I met a lot of these guys at Barn Night last night, and then you really have some CEO executive types and a lot of professors, PhDs, guys that, they're sort of empty nesters that really have some time to invest in people, the kids
And
are
they
out of the
are.
house
The older
and-
guys are going and hanging out with the younger guys, which is cool.
That's awesome.
So you've got a great blend, yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
next, don't make us big.
Well, we have a group. It's our second year doing it. We did it last year and then this year, and it's a pretty mixed group. We have some couples and some singles, mostly mid-20s and up. Last year it was pretty neat. We had someone in there, about 25, 26, single, just trying to figure things out. Then we had a young married couple, just been married a year. And another couple, they've been married, I think, like 5 years, getting ready to have a kid. And then my wife and I with 3 kids, and then grandparents. So we really had a diverse group. But now, I think my wife and I are the oldest in it. The grandparents, it just doesn't work in their schedules. So our group, we meet once a week, and we have a snack and get together, and it's this past Wednesday was our second week done. So half the group is still new, still in their second time in, and the other half is old from last year. So yeah.
Did you have anybody as an apprentice working with you, the leaders?
No, not yet. Yeah.
And Doug's at Mount Herman, so
Yeah.
that's maybe a little bit of a special community. That
Well,
probably
we
puts
only-
a little twist on your group a little
Yeah,
bit.
we only have one person that works in Mount Herman. A couple others live there, and some others are like Felton or the kind of surrounding areas that come in. Yeah. So.
Would you say they're all, I'm not sure what this means, but kind of mature Christians? Are there any that are on baby's mouth, so to speak?
Yeah, I would say maybe 1 or 2 that are maybe just kind of new into and just still trying to figure Christianity out, but the others are pretty strong in their faith. Yeah.
How about yours? In your group, do you have people that are the first kind of men's group?
Who you pointing at?
Do you have anybody on baby's mouth?
Yes, multiples. It's fun and they're exciting.
Okay.
They kind of fire up everybody else. It's good.
We're gonna come back to that.
Yeah, it's good to ask. They ask questions.
Yeah.
A lot of questions, which is good. Very good. Yeah.
Which is kind of part of what we're gonna talk about.
You're not on there.
Who's next?
This is really awkward.
Don't make us feel.
I'll jump in. I have a co-leader with a group, and it's an older group, so it has unique because they were first pres before they were vintage, so they have a history with the church. One of the things which has been interesting is when we were working with the study books before, we always never ran out of material. Now that we have the information from Nini,
Sorry.
it's like they want to go through that, and then as soon as they answer all the questions, they're done talking. And it's like before it was great to try to keep them back on track, and now it's like trying to get them to continue on because in an hour's period of time, we're pretty much done. And
Oops.
but I was telling Tom and Heather, one of the other challenges is that they tend to be opinionated, and especially in this election year, we have to keep their opinions off of the political. And that's been sort of a challenge here of late, is just to say, look, that's not part of why we're here. You can have those discussions elsewhere. And even in the social time afterwards, we try to eliminate any of that. Because there are differences of opinions.
Christian's not a political party.
That's right.
So, no, it's been good. The only thing that I find is people tend to get a little bit older. They tend to share less about their own needs and own concerns. And they're always bringing up something else from somebody, relatives or, granddaughters, grandsons, something like that. And really try to get something, how are you doing? How are things? And that's been sort of a challenge to get people to share about themselves.
So let's just say you're their pastor, so to speak, because you are the first and maybe the last point of contact when you're having their hand on their life. How would you go about that? How do you go about that? Pastoring them?
I think one of the things which I tried a little bit is instead of having general type, what is something that you want us as a group to pray for you this week, and try to bring it in on their own lives rather than world issues there's a couple members that just won't share. They won't open up about where they're at themselves, and that's been a challenge to see if I can get them to share something about their own lives.
Well, we all have limited time, right? So there's never going to be enough time to really pour into every single person like maybe we want to. But, I mean, for example, that's a good place to maybe say, you know, hey, can we meet for coffee next Tuesday at noon and kick it around? Because my experience is when you're just sitting there, really, and you clearly don't want to talk about the world or politics, and you start asking them, you know, how's it going? What's going on? Fill me in, you know, let me know about what's going on with you. They tend to talk, right? And inevitably something will come up because there's always something going on that bothers somebody, right? That's not quite right. Everybody's got stuff. The reluctance to talk about it is universal, but just a suggestion, those might be the kind of people that it actually would become fruitful to have coffee with.
That's a good point.
Well, I really commend you for being in a group like that because it's tough to shepherd stubborn sheep, you know, and you know, and you don't want to burn out as a leader. You want to receive the blessing of your efforts in a way, and I think that's a very healthy model that God gives us. I mean, you're pouring into them, but there's intangible blessings that come from that. And if you're not having those immediate rewards, if you feel like if they're intransigent or they're not, you know, that soft clay, that takes a really secure, strong leader who stands by them and continues to serve them and love them, even when there's not that willingness and openness to change and grow. And so I really commend you for that, but I would definitely seek out a partner in that. I mean, you seem like a very well-adjusted guy. You seem very honest and gentle.
The one thing that's nice is that they do give feedback. If
Yeah.
it's, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, thanks for great leadership tonight." You know, things really. And other nights I go home frustrated because, you know, we really couldn't get into the subject matter in depth that I wanted to get into. And, but as a whole, it's been good. It's been very good.
Steve Beck kind of shared about that last night at the men's meeting. He talked specifically about our passion for Christ at a young age and being able to reproduce that later on in life, and how often it's so difficult to not grow tepid in a way and to be vulnerable. It's much harder to be vulnerable later in life, and we get out of practice, you know. So.
And one of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit today is how to look at every single person in your community group as a potential leader, as somebody who can take a group on themselves, and we call those apprenticeships, and we'll get into that. But it's hard to look past their stuff, you know, their stubbornness and their stuff, to see who God sees in them. And so we're really going to talk about how do we choose people? How do we do that? So who else?
I don't know how long we've been together, 6 or 7 months. It's all blended together, but we're 5 couples, and we have 11 children, and they come, and we have 2 on the way, and so we have babysitters downstairs, and we all meet upstairs, and so it's a loud, fun. You have to be done with the chaotic to go in our group, but it's a super social group, and any one of our families could be the apprentice family. But they are either having a child right now or they have just had a child. We're the only ones that didn't have a child this year. So that's the only thing that, you know, maybe they're not quite ready to open up their home when everyone has multiple children. So we had the 2 awkward months at the beginning where it was the wives. The wives were being so shy and so sweet and just, not really speaking up and silence after every question. I mean, that stuff just makes me red through my ears, but you trained us to just let it be and be calm about it. And this summer we all kept meeting and we just kept playing together. All summer long we just played together. We just had worship nights or they come swimming, whatever, we just hung out. And now it's you can't get anyone to stop. We're so close. It's been so special. So because everyone's on the same page and walking the same part of life right now, so that's been really fun.
And you guys meet every week?
No, we're every other. We're just starting to talk about switching it to every week except for the last week of the month. We'll see.
How come?
We want more of each other and just the accountability and just more. If you miss one time, then that's a huge stretch where you don't, meet. So that's the thing.
And I think it's kind of almost a date night.
Yeah.
Parents. I mean, there's 2 babysitters watching all the kids, and it's a time to interact socially among adults.
Uninterrupted.
So everyone needs that, and especially moms who, I know Kat's at home all day with our girls, and so to have that adult interaction instead of counting to 10 over and over again.
You count to 10? Do 5.
No, we
We
don't.
limit our kids. We don't want to think.
21, 22.
Yeah, that's great.
And we just started our group Thursday night was our very first meeting. We tried to meet the week before and we got the stomach flu, so that was postponed. But we ended up, we have, I think, like 12 or 13 people in our group, and we had only 6 of us the first night for various reasons. One couple just had a baby, someone had strep throat, someone had to work late, and someone just didn't show up. So we have a few couples with kids, and then some singles, and that's it. I mean, I think probably we're all within the 20s, 30s, 40s range, early 40s, and I think it's going to be a good dynamic. I feel hopeful about it and excited, and it felt good to have them in our home, and the conversation flowed. People were pretty open. I think because there was only 6 of us the first night, and we were all kind of familiar with each other from years just being around the same community here at Vintage, and yeah, would you say it was good?
This is our best meeting so far.
So what did you guys talk about? I mean, kind of, how did you start it up?
Well, Nene did a fantastic training.
The best one he's ever been to. The only one he's ever been
Set
to.
up with week 1 notes on kind of get to know you stuff and how's everyone feeling, and do we want to meet every week or every other week? So
What did they say?
I think we all agreed to meet every other week. That was really interesting what you shared about being at a place where you want more, and maybe there's even seasons where maybe we'll get to a place where we want more, and maybe we'll get to a season where we want less.
Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah, we'll see, but that's kind of where we're at right now. We'll see. Yeah.
You did the covenants and commitments?
Not yet. That's week 2.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get into that next week, and then some other really important stuff like snack sign up.
That's really important.
Yes. We do have a couple that led a group for 5 or 6 years
Wow.
and got burned out,
Yeah.
and so they instantly were like every other week. Like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's gonna get burned out, including you guys, if we start every week. Like, let's just take it slow, and everyone else kind of went with that. Because we were kind of thinking originally 3 weeks on, 1 week off, but then once like the end of the day, he had a meeting after work. We're like vacuuming at 5:30. I'm just like, this is crazy. I can't do this every Thursday. I was like baking pumpkin bread, and it was pre-snack sign up, so I had to do it. And so yeah, we were kind of like every other week would be good right now. I mean, we have small children too, a 14-month-old baby and a 4-year-old, so the days get crazy. So I think we're all on the same page. It'll be good.
And are you co-leading? There was another couple, right?
Well,
No, Tommy and Heather.
Officially,
Not officially.
Oh.
but I think it's interesting
yeah,
to
we're
look at
co-leading.
this with. Oh yeah, we are, and then I think at least a couple of the other people in there, either they've already led before, like my mother said, or I think are pretty prime.
Both couples said if we needed a week off, that they would be happy to host it at their house. So I think there's some good leaders in the group that potentially, we haven't asked officially to be our apprentice couple, but I think that there's one that would be great.
But I think it's cool because it takes some pressure off, because like I'm even thinking if for whatever reason we ever had to step down or take a season off, I mean, it's just good to know that in one sense anyone could do it, in the other sense like this is it's good
They
to
can keep it going for us. Yeah.
take some pressure off
Yeah.
and also maybe put some pressure on.
Who else? Come on.
Well, who's going?
Yeah, we had our first meeting last Tuesdays ago. We have 15 people signed up and 12 people showed up. Ages range from early 20s to I think we have someone in their 50s. So pretty dynamic that way. We went for 2 hours, just basic questions of get to know each other, and we did snacks. And I found that at the end, because no one knew we were gonna have snacks, but everyone talked for an extra 45 minutes, hovered around, ate snacks. Really cool crew. So
So good experience so far.
And you meet at your house?
Yeah, we do.
Have you identified someone or some people who could be apprentice or apprentices?
I think definitely there's a couple different, yeah, couples that
yeah, so Heidi and I have been kind of leading a group here, well, sort of for a little over a year. We were as part of the 20s and 30s, so we had kind of 4 community groups within our 20s and 30s group last year, and I was sort of over the whole 20s and 30s, and then also over a subset of our small community group. So unique dynamics with four different groups meeting here every Wednesday night. And so now kind of our group has sort of pulled out a little bit of the 20s and 30s, and we're meeting at another couple's house that is in the, or was in kind of the 20s and 30s, and they have
She's
how old is she? She's like 1 year old, so easier for them that we meet at their place, and so we've been hanging out at their place and starting to like kind of change the dynamic a little bit.
Having a little more.
A little bit, yeah, it's a little like tighter community, a smaller group. You have 8 or 9 consistently, yeah, and you know throughout that year we probably had 25 different people in our group. So a lot of like changeover, but the core of that 8 or 9 has been pretty consistent for the whole year.
And you meet every week or every 2 weeks?
So we go every week. Yep, and that's kind of the setup we've been going with. Our hope is to still be part of the 20s, 30s some, and so meet there once a week, or once a month rather. And kind of the first of the month meet with the 20s, 30s group at large, and then break off into our smaller groups here for the rest of the time.
That actually is kind of a great model for when apprentice leaders split off from groups, that once in a while you all get together again because you are really like a big family. So that's a great.
Yeah, know people in the big group, and then hopefully have great, some different groups there.
Good. That's fun.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about it because I also have a 20s, 30s group that I just started, or I didn't just start it, but I just became the group leader for the group. I was co-leading with someone that was starting to get burned out, and not so much that, but just wanted some new flavor in leadership and bring in some more people. So that was neat. I've been involved for about a year now, and just taking over the group. And the group, like Stephen was saying, 20s, 30s, and there's been a lot of flux. Like maybe we have consistent 12 to 15 people coming, and maybe 25 to 30 have filtered through, but there is that core group. And I think that's something that the previous co-leader and I were talking about being important for the group, is actually having like a really solid subset of those people, and not necessarily capping it and not letting other people into the group, but just with our stage of life and the specific individuals, it seems like they're more open and comfortable sharing with just the people that they've been getting to know for the last year. So I think it's really exciting just to have sort of a smaller subset, maybe 10 to 12 instead of upwards of 20 at times, people that really know each other and been walking through life for the past year together. So I'm also thinking about getting an apprentice type position, because I've always been, for this last year now, a co-leader, and to have the whole thing on my own now and not have someone to bounce questions off and prep the lessons with is a little bit intimidating with the other stuff I have going on in my life, but I'm really interested to hear about this apprenticeship concept.
You know, I mean, as this becomes more of a pastoral model for the community group leaders, I mean, one thing that's inevitably going to happen is that it's going to suck up a little more time. And so the number of the people in your group gets to be more important to stay effective. And everybody has an opinion. Mine is like at 12, the same number of disciples Jesus had. That gets to be a struggle after 12. When you're in full-blown pastor in your group, they're calling you during the week, and they're not comfortable telling you about what happened, issue. You know, my wife, she doesn't act right.
Why would you pick that in?
It was perfectly natural for that. And is that always the truth?
Yeah, marriage has drawn a lot of people to Jesus for sure.
And marriage will draw you to pick up the phone and call your community group leader when you're not getting anywhere trying to make your point. So, and we'll come back and
We'll work that out later.
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that community group leaders are gonna be dealing with. I mean, it'd be different for college and men only, and, you know. But everybody's got stuff, and so as this model gets more kind of ingrained and everybody starts to take advantage of it, that this is where they're gonna get their care and prayer and counsel, time is gonna be a big issue, and so the meeting every week, sometimes maybe that could get tough. You guys will have to figure that out on your own. Some of you already have, sounds like, which is good. Cool.
My name is Laura, and my husband is at home with our 3 kids. His name is Laramie, and we've had a group for about 3 years, and we've had a couple people move, and every time there's a hole, we usually fill it. God usually brings a couple. And we have 12 adults, and then another couple, which is my husband's parents, that watch our kids. And so we have 10 kids under 8 years old. And so my in-laws kind of do a Bible study upstairs, and we're downstairs. And we start on time, and I think it's because my husband's very punctual, so he kind of sets the tone. So everyone knows that we're going to start at a certain time and we end at a certain time, and we meet twice a month on a Thursday. So there's a lot of kids that go to school, so we have to usually end by like 8:30. So and it's on the off week, sometimes we have like the women kind of go out and have coffee, and the guys go out and have burgers or whatever. But that's not every time. It's just when we can. So that's our group.
I love these family-oriented groups, because, I mean, otherwise, parents with young kids, they're just sunk.
They couldn't do it if there wasn't because I've had groups where the kids are just kind of sitting in front of, like, watching a movie, but then they start acting up, and some of the little kids are too small, so they feel like, we can't be part of a group.
Yep.
So when they know that their kids are just in a safe environment, being, in like a Bible study of their own, and the kids actually are looking forward to the Bible studies. And our one couple said, Mom, Laura has so many good snacks, but I like the Bible study way better. So that was precious, that the kids are looking forward to coming.
Okay. My name's Ben, and Tracy Ballinger and I have, Tracy emailed me about co-leading a group with her, trying to continue on our group after Jeff and Michelle Rutchow moved up to Seattle. And that was a pretty tight-knit group. We definitely had a lot of that flux, which I think is pretty typical for all the 20s and 30s groups. And then, had our core folks, and so we would meet here. Definitely spent a lot of time together outside of our group, which is really always fun. And I always appreciated that. Michelle didn't really wouldn't care one way or another, but Jeff was always cared about respecting people's time, and so that was always really great. We would start a little bit late, we'd try to wait for people a little bit, but we definitely would end at 9. And then oftentimes though, we would, we'd kind of hang out with everybody that was around, like Steven, Heidi, and Caleb, and just whoever else was around, and then a lot of times we'd go grab some food and a beer and whatnot. So that was really good, and I think as far as the general sentiment and type of group that we had, pretty kind of right in that 20s, 30s, mid-range in there. Definitely everyone's pretty socially and environmentally conscious, and how that relates to how important that is for the group as in regards to their faith. So definitely very much that was, I think, a big common denominator for a lot of us. People who are scientists, people who work in the camp industry, people who are artists. So it's really cool to have those different types of folks, together. So anyway, yeah. So we'll see what happens.
my husband and I lead a group in Scotts Valley, and we have, I don't know, 10 to 16 adults and just as many kids in the back. And it gets crazy. We don't actually hire a babysitter because some of us have like 10, 11, 12-year-olds that kind of referee, and if someone's screaming, one of us goes back, and the babies go in and out, and we just kind of roll with it. That's our group is all fine with that. When they come through the door, we let them know chaos or somewhere else. So it works. Been going what, 2 years now? Maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's a neat group.
Do you have an apprentice or apprentices?
No, we have, there's a core group, about 10 of those people who have been here from the beginning, and any one of them would be fine, but literally every one of them is already overextended and serving in different areas, or you know, we have a couple single moms who are working full-time jobs, so that wouldn't work, or, you know, so really, I can't think of one couple in our group that has the time to do another ministry. But they're all awesome enough to do it, like, they could, if they have the time, but they're all serving.
That will change. Not maybe that they will get less, but somebody will come in that's got all kinds of time.
God will bring. Yeah.
Anybody who hasn't shared with us about it?
So, my wife and I, we've had a group for about 6 months, and there's 5 couples altogether. So, we just had a baby, another couple, and then we have a 3-year-old. Another couple has a 2-year-old, and they're having a baby in a month, and another couple just had their first baby. So 5 couples and 4 kids, 1 more on the way. So we meet every Monday. Most of the focus is around praying for each other and just being real with one another. So most time my wife makes dinner for everybody, so we do like a big dinner. Sometimes we'll have couples bring food, and so we meet from 6:30 to 9:30, eat for an hour or so, and then we'll kind of get in the living room, and then we just, sometimes we'll go through a passage in alignment with what's been taught here or something different, and I try to delegate the facilitation to other folks in the group. So there's 2 different couples that could lead a group right now, but we wouldn't want to break it up because we're just still small enough and it's very intimate, very special. Remember when Steve shared about community like 2 to 4 months ago, sitting in there when he was sharing, if you guys were here on that Sunday, and I was thinking like, everything he was saying about what they had developed over 16 years, I was just so blessed because like God had developed that in such a short time in our group. And I remember as he was going through, he's like, we counsel each other, and I was kind of thinking through like, you know, the couples have fought together as the other 4 have like done counseling, and I think every single one of us have done that. You know, we've laughed together, cried together, it's been very, very special. And then we get together, I don't know, probably 5 times a month outside of the Mondays. Sometimes it's all of us, sometimes it's just different couples, but we're very, very involved with each other's lives and in every aspect. So whether it's getting together physically or talking or having email strings or text message strings, but we're constant, or Facebook, we just constantly are ministering to one another. And I've been a part of so many community groups. Bible says we've had 30 people live at our house in a 5-year span doing ministry, and even living with people. We've never had the type of community that we've developed with the folks here, so it's been very special.
How did that happen, Ian? Because you moved from out of town.
Yeah.
Well, it's
You had
partly
roots here.
because we actually have a few really close friends that we've had for a long time in the group. And then we had 2 other couples that came in that we did not know. And so it's sort of like a core group was already established, and so that like transparency was already there and everything, and so we just included that. We actually all shared our testimonies. We took each night, like we take a turn for each couple to share their full life and testimony and just get to know each one and be really raw and open. And it literally, like he said, we'll be 1 minute like busting up laughing, and next minute we're all crying. Like it's just really an emotional group and a really raw group. A lot of us are artists or really creative people, so we can get into things pretty deep. So
Yeah. Very, very special.
Does anybody not share?
My name's Steve, this is my wife Terry, and We are kind of living on the fringe, South Santa Cruz, Watsonville, Corralitas area, so pretty good distance away. And last year was an interesting year for us because I took a job down here, and I was down here for a year while my wife was away, kind of sides on the weekend. So I was part of the men's group. It was an awesome group. Just a plug in for that. But we thought, Leanie said, hey, we got some people that are down there. Would you be interested in hosting a group? And so we can do that. And we just kicked off our first meeting last Wednesday, which was Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
And so we only have 3 family units signed up. And I believe 2 of them are single moms, and the other one is a family who, their kids are going to be in Awanas, which is going to be on the night we're going to meet, so we're trying to hook them up with another group. So we only met once, and it was really just the one single mom showed up because it was Halloween. So. But yeah, that's where we are.
So brand new.
Wow.
And what would you say there, is there anybody on Baby's Milk?
Well, we only met one person. Well, we did meet the family, and I don't think they are. The one single mom is not. No, she's legally.
I don't want to miss anybody. Did we get everybody?
Mm-hmm.
We did?
Oh, right back there. And they're not leading.
Oh, she's
So,
potentially leading.
yeah.
She'll be leading a 20s and 30s group. That's Rita.
Hi.
Rita, holla.
I'm new to Santa Cruz, new to Vintage Faith. I've been living in Santa Barbara, went to Westmont College, which is a Christian liberal arts school down in Santa Barbara, and have been a part of a church leadership at a Episcopal church and a community covenant church down in Santa Barbara with women's ministry and facilitating Bible study. I'm a PhD student at UCSC right now, studying the American religious experience and American intellectual history. So hopefully we bring some cool elements to our future group. I'm excited.
Apprentice and apprenticing and apprenticeship is not new, right? It's been around forever. I guess it's the modern day word for disciple. It's biblical. It's all through the Bible. Everybody had. There were many people that had apprentices and disciples and so on. Carla, do you want to tell them about our experience as apprentices?
I will. Because I think that when you hear apprentice or apprenticeship, I think a lot of times people feel right away like, oh, they're going to break us up. They're going to split us apart. They're looking for more people to take on, half our group. And that is partially true, but it's not immediately true. And I just want to say that when Steve and I, 20 years ago, we turned our lives over to the Lord, and we were part of a church here locally in Santa Cruz County, and we joined what was called an ICU group, an intensive care group. It's like our community groups, and we were made apprentices immediately. Now, let me just say, there was no 2 people on the face of the earth that were less qualified to be leading people than us.
Amen.
Right? I mean, it was almost bizarre that this couple would take us under their wing and say, hey, we really want to, we want to pour into you guys. We want to turn you into leaders. And it was a year, maybe even over long process. So we were with them for a long time. And they really spent a lot of time, talking to us about our lives, about our decision to turn our lives over, about all the wreckage in our past, counsel, healing, prayer, fixing, snags in our life, really, really super focused on us as their apprentices. And then we would also help with the details of the group. We'd bring snacks, we'd call people, we'd invite friends, because at that time, we were trying to open groups up to people in the community that didn't know God at all or didn't go to church and didn't have a group. Yeah. And after we were with them for the longest time, it was time for us to take a few people in our group and start our own community group. And we did not want to go. I did not want to go. We did not want to go. It felt like
we were happy feeding at the trough.
Oh, totally. We were loving it. I mean, it was just such an warm, wonderful, inviting. We were so all very, very, very close. And it would have been really easy to stay. It really would have been easy to stay, and we were just on fire with one another. But it was time to see what God had for us as leaders, and so we did split off.
Not that we thought we were ready.
We didn't feel ready, and I mean, there's that wonderful saying that says he doesn't call the prepared, he prepares the called. And we had to just step out in faith, and we decided to have our own group, and because of that decision, so many people came to know the Lord. So many people that we would have never, that maybe would have never even ended up in church, came to know the Lord. We could have stayed, in our group, and that was all wonderful, but we took a risk, and it turned out to be an amazing risk. Not an easy one. We had a lot of people because we were very new in our faith, so we still had so many connections to the world, and all of our friends and family members and everything. So when we were inviting people to our community group, it was all people that were still very raw, and so it turned out to be an incredible, amazing experience. And the idea of apprenticeship is such a wonderful one. We've been talking with Mimi about it for, year and a half, maybe even longer. And to just really figure out how to get our community groups, which you guys are all so amazing. I mean, any one of your groups would be in a minute. They're fabulous. And so think about your group times 2. Providing your group to people who don't even know what it's like to be cared for, that don't even know what it's like to be in community with one another. And so that's where we really want our thinking to start. And so we'll really start talking. So one of the things about choosing an apprentice or apprentices is really, we used to say you could blindfold us and spin us around, and then whoever you land on, if you pour into their life and help fix what's going on in their life and really dive deep in with them, they can be a leader. They can be a leader, and God can turn them into a person that speaks life into others. So we really want to talk about that a little more in depth today.
So there's really a couple things going on here. I mean, apprentices are usually, they come under a journeyman, and they typically, the word really kind of implies they have no skills. That's not exactly the truth here, but it could be true. So this whole, and I agree, this whole pin the tail on the donkey, any person you just point to who's new, who has 0 skills, is completely qualified to be an apprentice, as long as they're not whack or, still part of the weekend witch practice on Saturday or whenever they practice. I mean, you know what I mean. Brand new baby, fired up or not, Christian, new believer, like 0 skills, 0 knowledge about the Bible, still living with their boyfriend or girlfriend, doing all of these things. If they're a new believer, I mean, really, those kind of people are qualified to be apprentice. Because we take them on as an apprentice, and we start pouring into them, and we start discipling them, and we start helping them walk their, in this case, their new life with Jesus, talking about the kingdom of God, like Dan was talking about, and the various things in their life that are keeping them from moving forward or in their way or whatever. Then, so there's that person. There's I guess maybe we'll call them the co-leader or the potential leader, because a lot of you guys have people in your group who are probably more than qualified right now to go and have their own group, and maybe for whatever reason they don't have time or whatever, and so there are those people in the group too. And then there are others who are that might need a little honing, honing their gifts and their skills, but they're not a baby's not for sure. That you could identify and work with them. So it isn't just pick an apprentice that's like, just fell off the tree and is brand new to your group, so there's that kind of wide range of choices you have. But I really just wanted to emphasize the fact that there's like no qualification to be an apprentice except they're believers, right? And they could be 2 weeks new and still have all kinds of crazy whack stuff going on in their life.
Because they're not yet leading a group. They're under your leadership. So it's really, it's definitely about, choosing anybody that, you can really help breathe life into.
And that is a lot of work. So, it's not a choice to be made lightly. You have to be fully aware that to grab a new person like that and really pour into them effectively with the goal of having them take part of your group and have their own group later, or have their own group somewhere, requires, we used to look at it like this. I mean, we had kind of a rule, Carla and I did in our group, where, we would invite somebody who didn't know the Lord to our group, and then in a month or 6 months or a week or that night or whatever, turn their life over to the Lord. And we decided, we were going to really disciple this new person, because way back when, I would just want them to give their life to the Lord and then give them to somebody else to fix, right? And that's not exactly what the Bible says. It doesn't say go out and make converts of all nations. It just doesn't say that. It's all of our calling, all of our kind of command or our instruction to make disciples out of those that we come in contact with that we can. But I would kind of decide to spend 80% of my time with that person and 20% of my time with the rest of the group, which in most cases didn't require that much time, right? Most of them were kind of coming along fine, and they had an issue, we would deal with it and so on. And then when we had prayer and counsel for a couple, they got stuff, they hit a wall. We would schedule a prayer and counseling session for them, and we would invite our apprentice. And they may just sit there and say nothing. They might have some good feedback, and if they had bad feedback, we'd help them out with that. But this was a place for them to start, for us to model for them kind of what that piece of it looked like. How you actually try and help and care for these people, get them past the stuck place, wherever that is. I mean, there's millions of stuck places that people hit, but yeah, I mean, one of the things it did for us, being an apprentice, when we had a couple doing for us what I'm kind of describing doing for them, is that it changed our life. I mean, we were going that way when we walked in, and by the time they were done with us, we were going the other way, right? It completely turned us around in so many areas of our life, which were askew, to say the least. And through that process, we really started to understand and believe and feel that God could and would and is using us, and that felt good, and it was all part of our kind of growing. We became more aware, more mature, and more bought in, right? And so I guess I want to just throw this out there. I mean, I think this is my opinion, of course. I'm the world's foremost authority on my own opinion. I always like to leave room in my group to be able to invite somebody in, right? Because they could be standing at church and there's a strange face that walks in. They're all maybe church shopping or looking or whatever, and I'll grab onto them. Hey, listen, we're not doing anything on Wednesday night. We have a little group that meets at our house, and when they came, I mean, all kinds of incredible things happened, or on the street, or in the line shopping, or however it happened. If I felt God had an appointment for me, and I was paying attention, I would totally invite him to come over to our group. And lots and lots of people said yes, and lots of people said yes who didn't have a relationship with the Lord, and their lives were changed. I mean, at the end of the day, that's our big reward, right? Is watching God and God's power and His Word change people's lives. That's what we get to watch.
I wanted to say one thing about, we've been talking in, our meetings a lot about community groups going deeper with the people in your group. And some of you I know are totally go way deep with your community group. But there were other community groups that were really just kind of going through the material, and, but when there was nothing left to talk about, then like they would stop talking. And so an avenue